Nacho John Madden, part 3 of my saga around psychology. I'm over on my old phone now. I'm running out of memory on both phones. My old phone, which has a huge memory, and my new phone, which actually has Telcel service. So for the first month or so of having the new phone, I was glorying in how much memory I had between the two of them. But now I'm running out on both of them again because I shoot so much videos. And I've been getting a little sloppy about deleting videos, thinking I had so much memory. Well, around 8 o'clock in the morning, I was on my balcony of my new apartment, noticing how quiet I had gotten, partly because I deposit my experiences on video and then delete it from my head. I've gotten it down somewhere I don't need to think about it anymore, and much of the time delete it from my phone. I can get rid of the video once it's up on YouTube. So I had done that yesterday. It was a wild and crazy day, going to the ER for my swollen feet, sleeping all day in the ER, 12 hours, and roaming a lot at night, including right in this exact spot. 1 hour in the restaurant from 9 till close to 10, then a couple hours out here shooting videos. I have lots of energy. Got to bed very late in my empty apartment. I've only been there 10 days and not been intending to furnish it because I have decided to leave Veracruz when I get my check in a couple weeks. Slept a couple hours, sat on the balcony, had a cigarette, boom, got absolutely quiet, which is something that happens for me more and more in the last 4 years. And sometimes that quiet, where I see video, I can see what's happening outside, I hear audio from outside, but nothing is going on in my brain, nothing. It's a gorgeous state, and it's been getting stronger even here in Veracruz, where I've had some significant traumas. Robbed on the beach, robbed behind the Hotel Mare Tierra. Yeah. So when I made that little 3-minute video, I said I almost didn't want to push the button to shoot the video because that means talking and it might interrupt my silence. But in fact, when I stopped shooting it, I got really silent again, totally silent. Organizing to get out for my day, confronting the locks on my front door, which have been a point of contention with my landlord. Boom. Each time the walk down to the beach was very quiet inside. Since then, I've gotten involved in all kinds of little dramas and a bunch of videos. So before going into the Oro, which on Wi-Fi is my first chance to upload any of these videos, I went back to review, and boom, there was that one from 8 a.m. where I was so silent. And I thought, man, I've gotten way unsilent. I'm going to have a cigarette before I go in there and get quiet again. And that made me associate to something earlier in my life. For 30 years, I was misdiagnosed as bipolar and took terrible drugs, and did not want to look inside because there was so much pain from the drugs and the diagnosis, not from clinical depression, which I never had. It was a misdiagnosis. But since I've gotten happy, no longer. I worked so damn hard during those 30 years to do every kind of therapy I could, every kind of meditation I could, that I've been like shot out of a slingshot and have access to an awful lot of inner peace, and way interested in my whole life, including the 30 years that are hard to remember from the drugs and shock treatments, which real psychologists, PhD psychologists, I abhorred when I was in school in the late 60s. But they talked me into it because I was so desperately in pain. But it's all coming back. All the memories are coming back. So as I sat down here and said, "Ooh, I'm going to cram before I confront YouTube and get back peaceful again," I thought, wow, this is like in college. I was the guy who would cram for exams. I would show off to my psychology classmates that I had not been studying. I'd been partying with my fraternity, then pull an all-nighter and get the top grade the next day, which some people resented a lot, including the woman I ended up marrying, who had to work really hard on those same classes. Gracias, senor. My hat had fallen off. That guy was returning it to me. And thinking about that, I thought, oh, you know, my lifelong journey around ungroundedness and my love for speed, yeah, some of it came from being raped for 4 years as a 6 to 10-year-old and leaving my body for survival. So that has had something to do with the downside of hard to ground, and the good side of I leave my body pretty easily and have wonderful spiritual experiences. But I thought, our unscrupulous family doctor, Gilbert R. DeMange. I remembered the name DeMange before, but this is probably the first time in 50 years I've remembered Gilbert R. I can see it on the door of his office in Lyons. The high school was Riverside, Brookfield. We lived in the Hollywood section of Brookfield, which was lower working class suburb then. Riverside was the affluent suburb. But his office was in Lyons, south of there, which was not very affluent at all. And so I don't think he was a good doctor. He had been our doctor forever. And in college, he loved it that I was in pre-med at that time, planning to be a doctor. He said, that's great. He wrote me an open prescription for Dexedrine. I never got into using uppers recreationally, but I sure loved the high when I'd pull an all-nighter. So, way pre-opioid, there was a doctor who was causing problems for his customers, his patients, by unscrupulous. There's my live phone. My cell phone is ringing. Who's calling me? Don't call me here at the office. Oh, I had set an alarm having something to do with my keys. I have to get a copy of keys. So, yeah, my ongoing journey with psychology. I've not only got a PhD in psychology and did incredible amounts of work on my inner life. My memories about my alcoholic dad, about our dysfunctional family, then later on about my stepdad who didn't like me. But it took me forever. It took me to my early 40s to get back to the totally suppressed memories about my sex abuse. They blew me out. Perfect storm. I was in Cincinnati, not my home Chicago. I'd gone there to be closer to my son. I had no friends. I had left a wonderful job at AT&T, very exciting, in Chicago, a town that really supported me with so much me, to Cincinnati, the most, GQ magazine while I was there named it America's most uptight city, and it was. So not me. Sex abuse memories return. Seeing my son twice a week instead of once a month made me more unhappy. Rubbed my nose in the fact that he still wasn't living with me. Perfect storm. I fell apart. Could have been a great time to do spiritual quest, but no. Stanislav Grof says these days there are no spiritual teachers, pretty much. You get taken to the doctors, who are the gods of our time. They take you to the shrink, and they know nothing about trauma. All they see is behavior that they've learned how to put a made-up name around and give you some drugs that by trial and error they found to help a little bit. And they pay no attention to the side effects. So it's 30 bad years, followed by 4 spectacular years. And going deep deep, deep into my own psychology, how I got to be who I am, and being proud of it, thinking it's a heroic story now instead of a tragic story. Okay, I gotta go into the coffee shop and clean up my memory. How's that for a metaphor? Clean up the memory in my phones. In my phones, my dad's only job ever was AT&T back when it was Ma Bell, before divestiture, when it was usually a monopoly. And I worked there as a management consultant after divestiture, when it was still the largest company in the world. Yeah. And my mom was a cashier in a grocery store. And when I went to Asheville, North Carolina in 2004, not wanting to do any professional work, I did 13 different frontline customer service jobs, but the one I loved most was cashier in a grocery store. Not little, whatever is the name of her neighborhood where they let people run a tab all month, but Whole Foods, and then Whole Foods competition in Asheville. This lady's, now it's a lady's voice. On the recording it's a lady's voice. She sells tamales, and I bought a taco from her today. Let's see if it's her. No, it's her son. Her voice. One of my favorite parts of Mexico. And here I am in Mexico. Talk about the apple falling far from the tree. I had never seen an ocean until an adult. Had never traveled farther away from Chicago than not northern Wisconsin. No, Wisconsin right across the state line. Okay. Buen día.